Welcome to MPCAT History. My name is Mrs Hemingway and I am an A-level history teacher at Trinity Catholic College. The aim of this presentation is to support you as the parent or guardian in helping your child prepare effectively for their upcoming PPE examinations in November. In this video I will explain the focus of the two A-level history papers, the breadth and depth study, also what an examiner was looking for in a good answer for the different question types, and also to highlight good revision practices. To begin with, it's important to know that there has been no changes made to the History A-level examinations that are to be sat in 2021. Students are still required to cover the same syllabus content, sit 2 examination papers lasting for 2 hours and 30 minutes each, and completing 3 questions on each individual paper. Students are also required to complete a non-examined assessment or piece of coursework on a question of their choosing. There has been one change made, that the start of the exam season is to be moved back by 3 weeks. In the week beginning November the 16th, Year 13 history students will sit their 2 pre-published exams, or PPEs, for history. Students will complete 2 papers, the same as they will in summer of 2021, both papers lasting for a duration of 2 hours and 30 minutes. Paper 1 is the breadth study and will focus on topics completed in Year 12, the reigns of Henry VII and Henry VIII. Paper 2 is the depth study, and this will focus on the content covered in Year 12, the Weimar Republic, establishment in the early years, the Golden Age, and also the collapse of democracy. This paper will include some Year 13 content looking at the Nazi state from 1933 to 1939. Each individual paper is worth 80 marks, and students will be required to answer 3 individual questions on each paper. We'll begin by looking at Paper 1, the breadth study, the Tudors from 1485 to 1547. Section A is historical interpretations. Students will be provided with 3 historians' opinions and arguments about a specific topic. Students are required to assess how convincing these historians' interpretations are in the extracts. They should use their contextual knowledge to support and challenge the claims that the historians have made. In total, students should spend 1 hour on this section, and it is recommended to spend 5 minutes of planning time and 15 minutes of writing time on each of the interpretations. Students are required to offer a balanced judgment on how convincing the arguments are, but there is no requirement for them to compare and come to an overall decision as to which one is the most convincing. Therefore, it's a really good practice to approach each individual extract as if it was a mini answer before moving on to the next one. Students should show that there is an even spread of time being spent on each extract, which is approximately 20 minutes each. Paper 2, the depth study on Germany from 1918 to 39. This time Section A is on historical extracts contemporary to the time period. Students will be provided with 3 historical sources, and they have to assess the value of these sources to a historian studying a specific topic. Students again are providing a balanced assessment of the value of these extracts by looking at provenance, tone, and content. They should use their contextual knowledge to be able to explain how these 3 things either add or detract value from the source. Again, students should spend 1 hour on this section, and it's recommended to spend the 5 minutes of planning time and 15 minutes of writing time, again on each of the sources. Students are required to offer balanced judgment on the value of each source, but again, do not have to compare them to decide which is the most valuable overall. So approaching them as a mini answer for each extract is the same advice as on Paper 1. On both Paper 1 and Paper 2, Section B is an essay section. Each essay that students have to complete is worth 25 marks, and therefore this section is worth 50 marks, and students will get to choose 2 essay titles from a possible 3. Students should be fully aware of what the exam question is asking. Some of the question stems are shown in the slide. Students should offer a balanced response and explore any historical debate raised by the question. If the question provides a date range, it is really important that students cover the full date range. or they could limit the marks that they receive. Students should ideally offer their judgment in relation to the question in their introduction, in their analysis throughout their answer, and finally in their conclusion. The NEA, or non-examined assessment. This assessment is a historical investigation into an aspect of Russian history, and it is worth 20% of the final grade that students will receive. The NEA is independently researched and written by the student and should total around 4,500 words maximum. This slide shows an important deadlines that students must adhere to in order to complete successfully their NEA in time and in order to receive advice and feedback on if they need to make any changes. How to prepare effectively for A-level history. First of all, getting to know your exam specification well is really important. One way of doing this is to read the exam board specification and also examiners' reports of past exams. Both of these can be found on the AQA website. The reports in particular offer really valuable advice regarding common mistakes that candidates have made and also the things that candidates have done in order to achieve the higher levels and marks on the exam papers. So rather than trying to guess what your examiner is looking for, it can pay off to do a little bit of digging, because believe it or not, the answer is out there. For the breadth study, there are 6 key questions that have been listed in the syllabus. So it's really important that you know what these 6 key questions are. It would be really good practice if you were to use these 6 key questions in preparing your revision for your exam. It will help you to identify patterns across the different Tudor monarchs, looking at change and continuity. And as this particular paper is a breadth study, it's a really good idea to try and split your revision up into 30-year periods, as an exam question has to cover 20 years minimum. So getting your revision into those blocks will be a really good idea. Paper 2 of the depth study. A good way of approaching this particular paper is to think about it thematically. So look at political, economic, social. Also be aware of historical second-order concepts such as cause and consequence, change of continuity, and historical significance. Top tip 2. Get organised and make revision manageable. Starting to revise can feel overwhelming, especially if an exam covers 2 years of work. So breaking things down can be an easy psychological win and make things slightly more achievable. So break down the subject into ordered sections, break the exam down into little sections, making revision less daunting, and know exactly where you stand in terms of how much you've done. Manageable goals will help keep you motivated. So instead of expecting yourself to absorb everything about Henry VIII's reign in half an hour, maybe focus on committing to memory just 10 key dates. After all, not many of us will be able to learn everything you need to know in any given topic in just one sitting. So a revision timetable will help you to focus on what needs to be done and when, which is really useful when exam season starts to approach. Essentially, it's going to make you study more efficiently and wisely. And a top tip is to put your timetable on a cloud storage service like Google Docs or on an app, so you can easily access it wherever you are at any moment. Don't leave things to the last minute. Think that will stick in your head if you do, because it won't. Get into the habit of doing a little bit of nightly or weekly revision throughout the year, so by the time you get to revision season, everything will hopefully feel much more manageable and will also leave you time to practice and test what you already know. Number 3, shrinking your notes. Try to avoid reading the same notes over and over again, because you'll probably just get bored and you'll stop taking things in. So shortening your revision notes mean that you're constantly and continually interacting with what you need to remember. You could make flashcards on different topics, and you could organise those using the 6 key questions for the tutors, for example, or having thematic ones on politics or social or cultural changes. You could use revision aids like the thinking maps that we use in school, or revision clocks to identify key parts of a topic. But how do you know if it's all sticking? Try making the notes without using your books. Complete the past papers and even explain these key concepts and ideas to other people. In fact, the last one's a really good tip to check that what you're learning makes sense. So spread your approach out. Do 1/3 content, 1/3 practice and 1/3 feedback. Number 4, practice, practice, practice. This is a really good way to get accustomed to the type of questions you'll face in an exam, as well as the language that the questions will be taught in. Something like this could throw you off if you're encountering them in this language for the first time on an exam day. So read your teacher's feedback, act upon it, improve your knowledge, skills and techniques. Testing your knowledge frequently by using websites such as Seneca, and also Hodder also offer free tests for all the topics that are on the exam papers. Can you beat yourself the next time that you try and do it? Can you get a better score? 5, making timelines of the period studied. This is an excellent tool to get a big picture when you're revising. So you can build up this idea about the themes across time, the changes, the turning points that have happened, and then working out the impact of those turning points. It just really just helped to just bring it all home. 6, expanding your mind. Do you have a habit of using those same phrases and vocabulary in your answers? So therefore, if you do, it's a good idea to try and think of new phrases that you can use in your writing. Why would you settle for supported when you could use corroborated or substantiated, for example? Examiners are looking for evidence of analysis, so using phrases like arguably or admittedly are little things that you could use to show that. And furthermore, as historians, it's so important that you read around your subject matter. This will help you to get a bigger and wider knowledge and understanding of the debates that are happening in history, and also look at the views of different schools of thought and historians. Google Books is a really good tool to use if you want to read a variety of books for free online. But don't forget, we have a lot of books on the shelves in our LRC. If you need help on exam technique, listen to the History Rocks podcasts. The author is an experienced and fantastic examiner, and she offers really good practical advice on how to approach common problems that students face in the History A-level exam. 7, do get some sleep. Exam season can be emotionally and physically exhausting, so good sleep can help you to remember things much more easily, which is really important when it comes to revising and taking exams. If you don't sleep well, you're more at risk of burning yourself out, losing focus and motivation. So set a routine, stick to it, and try and get 8 hours sleep a night. Number 8, take some time out. Do take time out to relax your brain, because otherwise you're going to find it really tricky to concentrate and absorb difficult concepts of information. So go for a walk, watch an episode or 2 of your favourite TV show, catch up with your friends, or anything else that's going to help you to wind down. Number 9, do remove distractions. Now, not everybody has an area at home where you can revise comfortably or for long periods. So whether it's Netflix, whether it's games, mobile phones, or someone just popping into your room, distractions at home can stop you getting into the groove of revising. So use the study rooms in college, go to the library or even a local cafe, different alternative study spots. Making sure that you have got good light so you're not straining your eyes, a sturdy chair that won't leave you hunched over, and enough space for all your books, notes and equipment, plus a study snack or 2. Now, many of us know the feeling of deciding to quickly check Instagram to then find ourselves hours later still watching the stories and updates. So if the prospect of deleting your social media apps is just a little bit too far, just be strict with yourself, give yourself a duration and a time that you can look at it, and then put the phone down. You'll be amazed at how much your productivity will improve. All right, be careful of study buddies, because sometimes you do have to be selfish and put your studying and revising first. Doesn't mean you can't make time for your friends, but just know that sometimes revising together doesn't always work out well. So the last thing to say, year 13, is this very true saying that the harder you work, the luckier you get. I am confident that you will do the best that you can to prepare for these exams. But if you do need any further help, please contact myself, Miss Hartley or Mr. Scar, and we will do whatever we can to help you to feel confident going into the exam room in November and in the summer. Thank you very much.